How do I 2am handle you're not listening to me type arguments with my partner F29? I'm not sure if that makes sense. I'll try to explain it more in depth. Often, when we have a fight, fairly regularly of late, unfortunately, the situation is escalated by her saying you're not listening, and me responding emphatically, repeatedly, that I am listening, I just disagree and we should discuss the disagreement further. An example, as verbatim as I can manage, her, I feel stressed every day when you're coming home from work, she works from home, because I feel like I am pressured to clean my dishes, walk the dog, etc. before you get home. I feel this way because you always complain about it. Me, I don't always complain about these things. Sometimes it's a bit annoying, sure, but, honestly, because I do it most of the time I feel unappreciated and sometimes I might ask you share the responsibility more evenly with me. Her, no, you're not listening to me. You don't understand. Me, I'm listening. I'm sorry I've made you feel that way, I'm just trying to explain. Then the situation devolves from there and turns into this big thing. I'm certainly not blameless, don't get me wrong. It's so frustrating, honestly it feels like I'm trying to have a more meta discussion about the fight itself, and she's just trying to have the fight. But she hates fighting and gets very distraught by it, which makes me feel like total. I dunno, I'm just at a loss as to how to deal with it. If anybody has advice, I'm all ears. As an autistic who have accidentally up on this type of thing quite a few times, I think I can somewhat explain what's happening. People under some form of pressure or distress rarely want you to explain why you are doing the thing that makes them even more stressed. It comes across like a justification of why you do it and will continue to do it, which can easily comes across as the distress/need she communicated to me is less legit or valid because I have a justification for doing it. This means that you are only addressing the practicality of the situation, but not that it is distressing her and how, which can easily feel like you are invalidating her feelings by not understanding how they come into play here at all. To her, you're not listening to how it affects her emotionally, because you don't address it and just justify why you do it. If this happens often, it can easily start to feel like you don't find her emotions to be valid. Because you can always explanation and justify why the thing that is causing her distress is actually a good solution. I'm not saying that that is your intent at all, but how it can come across. For me, I've had to have a lot of meta conversations about conversations with the people in my life. They understand that I miss social things and Ks even when I try my absolute best, and don't have ill intent, but they also can still get frustrated and hurt. Just like they know that they can confuse me and accidentally hurt me in the same way. Since we value each other, we take the time to sit down and have conversations about how to have conversations, what we need from each other and how we can meet those needs. It can be hard and a bit weird at first, since a lot of people know that they are feeling a certain way, but can't just put into words why without sitting with it for a bit and examining. Your partner might know that she feels like you don't understand, but might not be able to put into words exactly why or how to fix it without sitting with it for a bit. At least it was like that for a lot of allistic friends and my partner, but we worked together as units that could trust that everyone there wanted to understand and wanted the other to be happy and feel secure. EDA, thanks for the awards and convos. It warms a little socially confused heart to see that there can come some good from my special interest in understanding allistic social communication. I'm getting notifications for comments that I can't find when I go to them, so sorry if I miss anything, not sure where they're going. You're hearing her, yes, but not actually listening to her. There is a bit of a difference. Your example essentially translates to this, her, I'm stressed because I feel like I have to have the dishes done and the dog walked before you get home otherwise you're going to be upset with me. You, no I'm not, you're thinking too much into this, you just need to share the chores more evenly with me instead of stressing about it. The point of what she is saying is that, because you have gotten annoyed and complained more than once about the chores, she is feeling stressed about making sure they get done before you get home from work which she may not always be able to do as she might have other things she needs to get done that way. Instead of telling her that she's wrong to be stressed about the expectations and about whether or not you'll be upset with her, you could try instead to say something that amounts to I'm sorry I've caused you to be stressed out, you absolutely do not have to have them done before I get home, and I'm sorry that I've made it seem like that. Can we sit down and talk about how the chores and household duties are split? The reason I've been complaining about them isn't because I expect you to have them done, but because I feel that I've been doing them most of the time and would just like a little more help with them, but I should have talked to you about it instead of just complaining at you for not doing them. It's the same basic point, but you're not being dismissive of her feelings. You're acknowledging them, acknowledging how your actions, the complaining, regardless of how often it is done, has caused those feelings, and instead of saying just do more, you're asking to sit down and work together to find a solution that will help alleviate both of your complaints, her stress over you complaining, and you feeling like you do most of the work and aren't appreciated for it. It seems like the two of you are talking at each other and not with each other. If you want to continue on in this relationship, I highly recommend couples counseling to get past this, not uncommon, communication roadblock. Sometimes listening means not replying or defending yourself. She may be frustrated that you feel the need to defend yourself after she expresses her feelings. She's saying you're not listening to me, we've all been guilty of this BTW, so you're not alone, because the conversations are going like this, her, I'm upset about X, you, these are my reasons for doing X, not helpful. The issue is that she's upset. That's what needs to be addressed, not X. Imagine if she said, I'm so sad I just found out my dog died, and you respond with an explanation about why dogs eventually need to die. Not helpful. Don't explain anything, just address the emotion. What would you say to someone who's stressed? You'd probably try to make them feel calm and safe, maybe give them a hug. Do that. After the emotion has been addressed, you can discuss the dishes. Also, don't get defensive. And make it about you. I feel unappreciated / I don't always complain. Focus on the issue at hand, which is her feeling stressed. You can bring up your own concerns about feeling unappreciated in a separate conversation. This will make her feel heard. You're not listening to me means you are not acknowledging how she feels. Instead, you're only focused on how you feel, which comes off as if she does nothing. A better response is, I didn't realize that's how you feel. I'm sorry that I make you feel that way. What can I do going forward so that you don't have to feel like that? You can also suggest maybe making a specific day a cleaning day or something where you both do it together. Also, realize just because she works from home doesn't necessarily mean she's just chilling at home all day doing nothing. I used to work from home for like 2 years and was so mentally drained from it that I was often too tired to do much else afterwards. Meanwhile, my ex would throw in my face how he worked whenever we got into arguments, as if I didn't, because I worked at home and he went out. I work a physical labor job now where I'm lifting heavy parts repeatedly all day. I'm nowhere near as tired as I was working from home. Your partner's communication, I feel stressed, I feel like I am pressured to clean before you arrive home, I feel this way because you always complain about it. Your communication, it's annoying, I feel unappreciated, I take on more responsibility than you. So your partner has told you how she feels and what the cause is. You have responded by reiterating your complaints, which makes her even more stressed. Argument begins. I feel statements are actually a really good approach to basic communication. Next time you guys have an issue, instead of getting defensive / argumentative, start by paraphrasing what she has told you, to show her that you have heard what she said and understand her experience. Then you can respond with sentences that also start with I feel. See if that helps her understand your point of view without feeling attacked. I mean, you aren't listening to her. Her, I feel stressed when you come home and complain about the dishes. You, I only complain about the dishes half the time and they do bother me. You two need to learn to solve problems together. If she gets stressed about chores, sit down together and make a chore chart and a schedule. For example, you do after work walkies, she does dishes before bed. Accommodate her need for chill time after work and your need to not do all the chores. You aren't listening. You're responding with justification for the thing bothering her. It doesn't make your position on the issue itself wrong, but it does make you wrong for how you're treating her perspective. Try this. F. I feel pressured to clean up immediately after work due to your complaints. M. Okay, please tell me more about how you're feeling. After she's done venting, explain how you feel, not what your expectations are, and then work together to find a common ground. You usually wash her dishes and walk the dog when you get home? Have you guys tried writing out a chore list? That way things would get done whenever it's convenient and there wouldn't be an argument. Maybe make a point of talking about your day or her day or anything at all except what chores haven't been done right when you get home. Like, see if it gets done before bedtime, and if not, then you could give her a gentle reminder. Boom. Spot on. I can be this way. I try to repeat what the other person says back to them with, okay, here's what I think I heard you say, is that right? Works wonders. You nailed it. I like the term meta conversations. My partner and I just call them hard conversations. They're hard because most people don't have practice with talking about themselves and what they want and need. My partner is an excellent communicator and was still hung up about validating my feelings if they seemed irrational to him. I had to explain that the point isn't to validate that my feelings are correct but to validate that he understands why I feel the way I do. It requires putting yourself in their shoes so you can see the issue from their perspective. This makes a big difference in what direction the conversation will go. It also makes me willing to listen to his perspective, or what OP called justifications. Edit, just to add a little more, I think of validating emotions for kids to help understand it for adults. It doesn't matter if you think their feelings are silly or dumb, they feel them. Example, child throws a fit because he wanted the red cup instead of the blue one. It is completely irrational to us as adults, but this child is having a very real experience. It doesn't matter if we think it's dumb. You just knocked it out the park. I'm sending this to my ADHD husband who has the exact same problem, where he just keeps explaining and justifying his side, to all with everything else. I have to advocate for myself but also the kids, so I really have to dig my heels in sometimes, and the results are not pretty when he just goes ooh-hun and ooh-hun with the justifications without stopping for a second to hear and actually think about the effects of his actions on others. Doesn't matter how much sense it makes in your head, if it's hurtful to others, it's hurtful to others. It can't fly in a family. Edit, adding that it's an issue in his friendships too. He knows it, and is actively working to curb it. That's the impression I'm getting too. It seems like they both want to communicate effectively but are just failing to do so. OP, communication is a skill, and just like every other skill you need to learn exactly how to communicate with someone by using the proper tools and then practice over and over. This is where the help of a professional can come into play. Even if it's just a couple sessions where the therapist can give you both some tools to communicate better. I really wish there were communication classes and workshops like there are for learning parenting and driving skills. Mayhaps there is, but I've not heard of them. Regardless, when it comes down to it, therapists are basically teachers in communication. They teach you not only to communicate with others, but to communicate with yourself. A way I've explained it is, when your partner is telling you how they feel, if you are actively thinking of how to respond, that isn't listening to them. It's justifying your actions. Listening is an active event. It requires you to be actively listening. Not just trying to think of your next comeback. This was hard for me to learn because I was raised by narcissists, and it's a survival tool to be thinking of your next statement. I suggest you talk with her when you are both calmed down and ask what she needs in the cases when you fight. Does she want you to validate her feelings? Does she want a resolution? Does she want a hybrid? You won't know till you ask her. I encourage you to. Also think about what you need during these exchanges. Also, really be honest with yourself. Do you expect too much of her because she works from home? Could these things be done later once she is off work? Do you take them on because you want them done at a specific time or in a specific order? 100% this. This is one of the biggest challenges between me and my partner. When I bring up my feelings or perspective on an experience, instead of acknowledge that or empathizing with how I'm feeling, he feels the needs to defend himself or provide his own perspective. This makes me feel like he's hijacking the conversation that I initiated to talk about my feelings, steamrolling past my concerns and ensuring we first focus on his. There will certainly be times and situations where both parties need to talk with each other about their feelings/perspectives. But if every time she initiates a conversation with you about how she is feeling and you immediately jump to how you are feeling about it, it can really leave your partner feeling unheard, which is exactly what she's expressing to you. Yep, to me it does sound like he isn't listening. She's saying she's stressed and can't handle getting X chore done today, but she feels pressured to do it because he will get upset. He then just explains why it's okay for him to get upset without hearing that him getting upset especially on that specific day is stressful for her. That's a good point. I'm just at a loss as to what to do in that instance. I guess it just feels like she's seeing the world a certain way, and when I even suggest an alternative viewpoint, I get shouted down. This is what I feel you're not listening usually means. Great explanation. I hope OP actually reads this, since this is exactly how I feel when someone isn't listening to me. If I speak and they just get defensive, I'm never going to respond as well. Yep, I was thinking exactly this, but not so well worded. OP focuses on you always complain instead of I feel stressed. Sure, it's probably not fair of her to say always, but that is not a bridge to cross in that scenario. Focus on her I statement and respond to that. Then later, it might be good for OP to give their own I statement. I feel like I'm the one doing the dishes most of the time. Problems are fixed by I statements. They are caused by you statements. I think that is also a good approach. I've had a lot of conversations where we were really just having two completely different conversations at each other before I learned that one. My roommate and I have started this rule where we have to ask the other person if they're mad before assuming they are and reacting as if they are. As two people with anger issues who are trying to do better but also struggling to show or/understand each other's emotions, it stops the "why are you getting mad at me for something you did" type of thoughts really fast. This is what I was going to suggest. It's a used therapeutic tool for couples. Give the person space to say everything they need to get out, repeat it back, and check you're understanding it right. Once they've done back, they can do the same. Both paws are out, everyone's felt heard. Then you can talk about what to do about it. But she's literally telling him she doesn't feel listened to, and his reply is, "Sorry I made you feel that way." Kinda obvious what's happening. She's not confusing, she's been super clear. You empathize. I completely understand how that I might be frustrating. Let's work together to find a solution. Empathize and listen first. Let her vent first and then defend yourself. Don't suggest an alternative viewpoint in the moment. Really, just don't. I've been married for a good number of years and we'd have these arguments back in the days, talking at each other instead of collaborating. Here's a few thoughts, in no particular order. When she complains about something, do not defend, explain, justify, or clarify what you're doing. Do not try to solve what you see as her problem. Instead, sit down, focus on what she's actually saying, then repeat the main points back at her to make sure you understood what she's trying to communicate. Then, and only then, do you go, "Okay, I hear all of that, do you have any ideas for how we can fix this situation?" Then you listen some more and see what she's got to say. Then, and only then, can you two start brainstorming for solutions together as a team. When she brings up something that bothers her, you can ask, "Do you want to vent, or do you want solutions?" Only offer solutions if that's actually what she's asking for, and if she is, think of it as a collaborative effort. Also, offer your solutions as suggestions and expect her to build on what you've offered. Don't just spring this on her like it's the word of. Shouting helps nobody, so it might be helpful for you both to have a discussion about this when you're both feeling calm. We have a guideline in my household: if either of us is feeling heated enough to want to start yelling, we take a time out. Related to the above, if you always, or often, find yourselves having no good, totally unfruitful arguments in certain situations, you need to nip that in the bud by refusing to engage. Again, a real-life example: we don't talk to each other in the kitchen before 10 a.m., because we just keep butting our uncaffeinated or barely caffeinated heads into each other. My ex-flatmate had a request that nobody talk to her for the first 15 minutes after she comes home from work because she needs that time to unwind and do her introvert thing. Finally, you're going to be so much happier in the long run if you learn to approach your arguments and disagreements as something you two will deal with as a team, not as her problems that need to be solved, or that you clearly have solutions to if only she'd see the light and agree. The same obviously applies to her as well, for every point I've made her. You need to have these talks and you need to establish some baseline rules or guidelines, but this is best done when you're both well rested, fed, and calm. Do not leap into fixing everything when you come home from work all exhausted. Some of what I'm writing here I learned from hard-won experience. A lot was influenced by an absolutely fantastic parenting book, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk, which I'd actually recommend to everyone across the board, kids or not, because it's an excellent blueprint for how to communicate effectively with kindness and respect.